Alright, hey, how you guys doing? So, here I am with another video just answering some common questions. These are questions I get all the time from the website, from growbotchicken.com to my email. So, one of the number one questions I get just daily is, where do I get my seeds, or where can I get seeds at? So there's a few different answers for this one. One, you can get your seeds at, oh, by the way, finally at 40, you can grow the mustache, like for real this time. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, the light's a little bit dark, so like, it's darker anyway. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. I can grow a mustache finally. But I'm gonna be shaving it because I don't like, I think it looks cool. I like it, you know, but I don't like it, if that makes sense. Alright, so seeds. All I know is you can go to your local dispensary and you can buy seeds. Now if you want a big variety of seeds that you can get with credit card, just check out 420 Magazine's sponsor. So go to 420magazine.com, go to the sponsors. All those sponsors are reputable and they're good companies. I recommend checking out GYO Seeds. All right, so G as in God, Y as in yo-yo, O as in O. GYO Seeds, so check that out. Another common question I've been getting a lot lately, and this one's is related to my lights, but I get it all the time. And that is, can two minis do the same as a dwarf star? And the answer is no. So maybe, I should say maybe. There are benefits to both. So regardless what your space is, you know, they're going to cover around the same space. But the main thing with the minis, with two minis, the main benefit of that is you can have them at different heights. So if you have, you know, two plants, whatever, and one's growing taller than the other, you can raise one light up and lower one light down, so you can get that variety there. I recommend trying to keep your canopy even. You'll get a better yield that way anyways. But you know, if you just, you know, just chill grower, you don't really care about all that, and that's fine. The dwarf star, you can't do that with, but the dwarf star is more powerful than two minis. But so the max yield so far with the dwarf star has still been right there at 12 ounces, a little over 12 ounces. And that was with one plant actually, trained in a 4x4 area, but they didn't use the whole 4x4. They used like maybe 3x3 or 3.5 by 3.5. You can also do like a couple smaller plants and have an easier time reaching that goal. But so that's, you know, not too difficult to do if you do multiple plants and are a good grower, to get that 12 ounces off the dwarf star. And you can actually get more off that. That's just, no one's really pushed that light to its full potential, but that's pretty good. The max yield on the mini so far, with just one mini by itself, was a little over 5 ounces. So theoretically, if you think about it, two minis adds that little bit of invisible light between it. So you should be able to get 12 ounces off two minis. You have to be a good grower though, so don't expect to be able to do that. And that's with any light. Don't expect to be able to get, you know, a 1,000-watt awesome Hortilux, you know, HPS double-ended bulb and think you're going to just go bust out 3 pounds, because good growers do that. You know, because good growers can get 3 pounds to my max yield, doesn't mean you're going to. So got to keep that in mind. That's why I always recommend people start out cheap with HPS. That way they know it's not the light. We know what HPS can do. Anyway, so that answers that question, hopefully. They should be able to yield around the same, but I think you'd have an easier time pulling it off with the dwarf star. I'm just looking at here. My wife helped me with the other questions.
Max versus Goliath versus Cobb.
Oh, actually, seedlings.
Oh,
I'm trying not to answer a bunch of questions about lights. I get questions about lights all the time. Not just my lights, but just lights in general. So with seedlings, I get this question a lot. That is, you know, how do I grow seedlings? You know, what do I do? You know, they keep dying on me. They keep turning yellow on me. And this doesn't matter whether it's under my lights or under another light. You know, it's just a common question. And so regardless of what light you're growing with, if it's a powerful light, 600-watt HPS or above, so it has that much power or higher, then with it, obviously, unless your 600-watt HPS is dimmable, then you're going to want to keep it a good 3 feet at least above your seedlings. And I also recommend starting your seedlings in the corners. So if you're in a 4x4 area, start off in the corners. That's where the least amount of light is. No matter what light you're using, those corners are going to be where the least amount of light hits. And so put your seedlings in the corners of your room, and that way they don't get so much light for the first 7 days or so. And then start moving them toward the center. Pay close attention to the leaves. The leaves should stay um, like kind of soft but stiff, but not like paper stiff. And they should stay nice and flat, like flat and even. They shouldn't start to curl up on the edges. The teeth on the edges shouldn't start to look sharp and like shredded. If they start to look sharp and shredded, that's the first sign of either heat stress or light stress. With my lights, it's not going to be heat stress because they don't put straight heat on like HPS does. But the light is so intense, you can get light stress, and light stress looks identical to heat stress. So that's the first sign to look for. Yeah, anyway, so then just slowly start lowering the light. If you have to, I often start at 4 feet away from my plants, and if it's on full power. Now, if you're using something like my cob, or that has the dimmable switches, or it's not, well, it's like stage switches, then I start in seedling mode. I can have a lot lower. I can have about 2 feet away from the plants, but I still like to keep it. The first few days, I start out on the edges and I move in toward the center light to see how much they can handle. And it could take a few days to start to see the stress. So then if you start seeing stress, back off, or raise the light a little bit. But you always want to try to push them as much as you can. You got to find that nice sweet spot. It takes a little while to figure it out, and every strain's different, and growth style can change as well. Keep in mind, the more light, or the more light, the more food they can eat. I start feeding my seedlings right away. That's why I can get them. I can bombard them with a lot more light, because I start feeding them with like 200 to 300 ppm day one. That is right when I put them in there to start getting watered. Okay, so that's like not even true leaves yet. You know, that's just the day one when they're still normal. Then, actually, really quickly, then when you after they get about a foot tall or so, your light is probably gonna be right around 3 feet away from them. They should be able to handle that. If they can't, then go a little bit higher, but they should be able to handle 3 feet away by the time they're a foot tall. And then and measure too if you have to. I recommend measuring to make sure you get it right. And then as the plant starts to grow out more and starts to get used to light and starts to harden up, hardening meaning it's getting used to the light and getting strong, then you could start lowering down to like 2.5 feet. You want to wait till that thing is fully in veg mode before you're at 2 feet away though. And I mean, it's got to be in veg for a while. It's got to be a pretty big plant. Then you can finally lower it to that 2 foot mark. For there, you pretty much can leave it there for the rest of the grow. But I like to push it really hard the last like 2 or 3 weeks of the plant. And I like to drop it down to 18 inches. And I don't just do it instantly. Every time it's always in stages. So when I got about 3 weeks left, that first week I'm dropping it from the 24 inches down to like 22, down to 20, then down to 18. And that takes a week to do that, and then finally I keep it there. And if I see that it's stressing them out too much, I might back it off a couple inches. But I know I can push them the last 2 weeks. It doesn't matter if I stress them out too much because they're coming down. All right, so that's that. Let's see what other questions we got. There are common questions we get.
Space.
How many plants to put under light? This is a really common question, and it's a really varied answer because it really depends on the strains you're growing, your style of growing. Are you training the plants to be wide and bushy, or are you just letting them grow tall and narrow? All this matters. My buddy, he always grows 9 plants in 3-gallon pots with no training. He just lets them grow their natural way, and they kind of look like little Christmas trees the way they grow out. They kind of grow out kind of a little bit thick, but not like just one straight branch. They have branches coming off them, and he also tops them. I think he tops them 1 time. And usually, or maybe twice. He usually has 8 tops on them, and they stay pretty narrow. So that's just his style of growing. He puts 9 under 1,000 HPS, and when he grew with my Goliath, he had 9 underneath the Goliath, and he was able to pull that 2.5 pounds with the Goliath. He hasn't tried the max shield yet. I'm sure with the max shield he can probably pull 3 pounds. I'm sure that light can definitely do that. That light can easily keep up with the double-ended HPS 1,000 watt bulb, and it uses so much less electricity, only 600 and 30 or 670 watts, something like that, versus 1,000 and 150 for a double-ended bulb. Anyway, so it really depends on I know it doesn't sound like a clear answer, but basically what you got to do is you got to figure out, okay, am I going to top them at all? Am I going to train them at all? If you don't do any training at all, no topping, no nothing, expect a tall, thinner plant, and you can put more underneath it, especially if they're in 3-gallon pots. If the bigger the pot, the bigger the plant's going to get, and therefore, as long as you grow it right, and then you can fit less. So basically, the bigger the pot, the less plants you're going to put underneath your light. I recommend shooting for anywhere from 5 to 9 in a 4x4 area. That's going to make it your best chances of getting your biggest yield. And the reason why that is because if you just grow one plant, you only have, if you have one failure, then your whole plant's gone and you're not going to get a good yield. If you have 9 plants only and one plant fails on you, that is, one plant doesn't really do that good for some reason, something goes wrong with it, you still have 8 plants that are going to pull your weight in for you, and that one plant can not do its job and give you very little, and you're still going to get a good yield. And if you do 5 plants, I recommend, or do like, basically you're doing 4 plants with 1 in the middle. So you do 4 kind of bigger bushy plants and put one untrained one in the middle. That's a smaller plant. And that's a good way to do it. Another one, you can also do a big one in the middle, a big nice trained plant in the middle, and then 4 smaller ones on the outside. That's going to be the least like if that big one has a problem though, you're going to get a smaller yield. So keep that in mind, unless you got your shit down. But people that typically asking me that question are going to be beginner growers. So for a beginner grower, I recommend doing more plants, not too many plants, but you can start with 5 plants. It's 5 plants, all equal size, all the same size pots. Train them all out the same way. If you run out of room, it's not a big deal. Just pull out your least favorite one and then rearrange them back down to 4 plants. It's really not a big deal. Okay, so yeah. So how many plants can you fit underneath a light? It all depends on your grow style and the pots you're using, just how you train and all that stuff. She's pointing to space. I don't really remember what that question was.
I'm guessing you just answered it with light.
Yeah, I think that was one of the same questions. I get a lot of questions about spacing, just like, hey, how much space do I need? Things like that.
Like 4x4.
And I recommend having a 5x5 space. If you can get a 5x5 space, you're doing good. That means that you can have your plants in a 3x3 or 4x4 area and still have room around in your grow room for things like fans and dehumidifiers, a portable AC or something like that. You have room for everything. You're not all cramped up, and if you don't mind being all cramped up, that's cool too. Just get a size tent that fits your needs. Like if you have to do a 4x4, and whenever I go in a 4x4 tent though, I typically try to stick to that 3x3 or 3.5 by 3.5. I like to have a little bit of room for other stuff. I don't like my plants just to go right up to the edge of the tent. But that's up to you. It all comes down to grow style. But yeah, so spacing really just depends on on you and what you can go with. I always recommend try to have the highest ceilings possible, because you always want to have that room for height, just in case your plants, you want to grow big plants so they get nice and big and tall. But and also you always want to make sure you have enough room between your light and the plants, just in case your plant can't handle the intense light, especially if it's my light. My lights are super, super intense. The spectrum is just totally different, out of this world. The perfect sun spectrum is like the sun. And when you're out in the sun, sometimes it gets too intense. You got to put netting over your plants, because if you don't cut that sunlight down, your plants are going to be very unhappy and not do as good. Too much light, there's such a thing as too much light, too much intensity. And the sun definitely breaches that mark on some days. All right, let's see here. Let's wrap this up here with...
Bush versus medium.
Oh, I did that one. Another one, so I get the max yield Cobb and Goliath question a lot. Like, what are the differences? Things like, I answer this on the website, but I still get this question a lot. Like, too much. It makes me think that people just don't like to look at the website and read or something. So So the max yield is my biggest yielding light, period. There's no light that's going to beat that light on the market. It's absolutely period. I don't care what light it is. I don't care if you made it yourself. And if you ever want to challenge me on that, I've already told people, just look at my video. I show you how to do the 4x4 measurements. It's really easy. Hang your light at 2 feet away, or whatever height it needs to be at, so that you're right around 1200 par in the center. Just whatever height that needs to be at. So make sure you're at about 1200 par in the center, and then 4x4 area. And I show you all the measurements. I show you how to make the thing. It's really easy to do the measurements and take the challenge and beat it. But the key is you have to be using around the same amount of watts. So, for example, Black Dog's biggest light uses about 1,000 watts. My light still beats them with 600 and I think it's 670 or 630, somewhere around there. I can't remember now. But it beats that light even though it uses like 400 less watts. So if you want to legitimately beat the max yield, you have to be right around the ballpark, right around that 700 watt mark. If you're going over 700 watts, then you're cheating, right? Because you give me those few extra watts, and I'm gonna beat you again. So yeah, if you want to beat the max yield with the homemade light or whatever light, just make sure you do that test and make sure that you're at around 700 watts or less. because if you're not, then you're using too much watts. But you know, even then, it's probably still going to beat you most likely. So even if you go over that somewhere, like, you know, because Black Dog goes over it and they still get their ass whooped because most people just don't use the right spectrum, and that's a big thing. You know, be as close to the sun as possible, and you're gonna make a good homemade light. Do-it-yourself light. It's pretty simple to do. If you're just gonna use all white light, yeah, whatever, that's your thing. But I'm telling you, you're missing out on so much dense bud growth and everything by having that deep blue and that deep red. That's really simple. If you want to keep it simple, stupid, 3000K white light coming from some kind of cob light or just really good lights, and then have also mix in there deep blue and deep red. That's like the 440 or so blue and like the 60 or so red. You can maybe get away. 630 is still a little bit too light. You want a little bit of that in there, but try to get a good amount of that 660 in there, or at least 650 or something. I don't know if they make those anyway. All right, so that's pretty much that. And so the main difference is that the Max Shield uses a little bit more electricity than the Goliath, but it'll give you a bigger yield. It's also smaller and much lighter. So instead of being it's 2 feet by 2 feet instead of 2.5 by 2.5, and it's only like 29 pounds instead of 55 pounds. That's just the light itself. So it's a lot lighter, a lot easier to work with, and it has the dimmable switches, and it has the switches on there, so you can have the seedling. You can have the seedling switch. You can have the veg switch. It's like the cob, and you have your full power, which is your flower. And the cob does that same thing. So the cob, it yields right around the same amount as the Goliath, but it's also a lot smaller, a lot lighter. It's actually a lot smaller. It's even smaller than the Max Shield and lighter. And another thing is that I'm actually reworking the Goliath now too, to take advantage of the Cree lights, and to also try to make it easier to work on, because it's not the easiest light to work on. And you know, it has one of the best, you know, fill ratios of my lights. My best is probably the Dwarf Star, and that's probably my best light actually as far as fill ratio. That's like under 1% fill ratio. That's absolutely amazing. Like I've never seen an electronic that's that good. So as far as fill ratios go, I just want to make sure it's still recording. But yeah, so anyway, using electronics, 3% is like, wow, that's fucking awesome. Right, so anyway, that's pretty much it there. The cob has the switches on there too, which is awesome. So if you're just gonna be growing with one light, definitely go with the cob or the Max Shield. The reason why is because you can use less power during the seedling stage and veg stage, and then finally use full power for flower stage, and actually probably use less electricity overall than the Goliath. The Goliath doesn't have any sort of switches or anything like that. It's something I want to keep simple for like commercial growers. They just hang it up. Because they're just using it for flower only, so it's gonna be full powered all the time. And that was the idea behind that light, was for commercial growers. But yeah, anyway, so it does use less electricity, about 100 watts less than the cob and the Max Shield. So if that's a thing, but honestly, the other ones make up for it with their weight. They produce more weight. Well, not they. The Max Shield makes up for it with extra weight. The cob, the only thing that makes up for it is it's much lighter, much easier to work with, much easier to do a personal grow. It's easy to raise up and down. It's, you know, easy to flip the switches and all that kind of stuff. So it's just much easier for a personal grower. Max Shield is still pretty easy to raise up and down because it's not much heavier than the cob. It is bigger though, so it's, you know, a little more awkward. But other than that, that's the, you know, go-to light. Also, the Max Shield is the easiest light to work on. I chose that case design, which is not my design. I paid to actually use their case, but their case design is just, I saw that and like, that is brilliant. They made it to where you don't ever have to take the light apart. You can get to the drivers by just taking 2 screws out there. You got access to your driver. You want to take a pod out that's, you know, has the cob in there and the other lights in there. Boom, that comes right off the front without taking the light apart. Just boom, replace it, you're done. So you can pretty much replace anything on the light that needs to be replaced very, very easily without having to take the light apart. Now the cob comes apart pretty easily and it's easy to work on. The Goliath, because it's so big and heavy, taking it apart and working on it, it can be kind of a pain in the butt and putting it back together again. And the way it's designed to keep it really simple design and to keep the cost down, the way that you have to take it apart can be a little more difficult to work on. But hopefully you never have to do that, because that's the whole idea, that you want to be in that 99% and not in that 1% of people that have fill ratio. And I just want to touch on this really quickly, because I get this a lot, and I totally sympathize, I understand, but you got to think about this. out of the thousands of customers I have out there that are enjoying and loving my lights, there's only a few sour apples out there. It's only that 1%, and within that 1%, there's only a few people that just really have a bad attitude about it and take it and just make everything very unpleasant for both me and them, or for now my wife and them, because she's pretty much taken over that business for me. And yeah, so it's just it's unfortunate, but there are a few out there that just you can't please them. There's nothing you can do. Like, hey, I'll replace the light, whatever, we'll work this out. Hey, I'll send you parts. It's easy. Look, here's a video how to do it. It's super simple. Just plug and play. It's easy. If you can't do that, then why are you growing? Like, honestly, if you can't take some screws and take a case off a light, unplug a part and plug a new part in, why are you growing? Like, you're not going to be able to grow. Not good. If you can't even do something so simple as that, it's just super, super simple. And hopefully that's not like talking down to anybody or make them feel stupid, but it is really, really easy. So yeah, anyway, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So think about this. When I first got my Xbox, I went through quite a few of them before I finally got one that actually didn't break down. And that was because their first few ones used the wrong chip, they were overheating, and yeah, they had a way too high of a fail rate. Matter of fact, their fail rate was so high that they were on the verge of a big lawsuit, and that's why they had to go ahead and make that right. But yeah, that doesn't happen very often. But PlayStation is really, really good, and they have a really low fail rate. But still, some people get a bad PlayStation, and then they get all freaked out, and PlayStation sucks, and blah, blah. Dude, you're in that 1% or maybe in that 3% mark of fail rate. Come on, like, that's all electronics, by the way. It's very rare to find an electronic that has less than 3% fail rate. My Samsung Note was it the Note 5? I went through like 2 of those. Yep. And it was finally my third one that pretty much didn't have really any issues.
The second one that was bad.
Yeah, and it just happens. This is bad luck. And I'm not like, oh my God, Samsung sucks, I'm never going to buy a Samsung phone again. No, because I know that they have a really good product and they have a low fail rate. And, you're under warranty. It's not a big deal. You just, they take care of it, you get another phone. Now, it's kind of irritating you have to wait. But, hey, when you're growing, always have a backup light. Always. You need a backup light because you don't know if one of your lights are going to go out. You need at least one backup light, always. Even if you only have one grow light, you at least need one backup light. If you have like 5 grow lights, you still need at least one backup light. And that backup light, all you have to do is buy a cheap Apollo 600 watt HPS or even their 1000 watt HPS. You can buy that for under $200 for the whole entire setup. Comes with the digital ballast, comes with the light, comes with the hood, just a simple wing hood. That's all you need. That's enough to grow really, really good marijuana. I know because I did it many times. It grows really good marijuana. And yeah, you got to deal with a little bit extra heat and stuff like that. Not a big deal. I grow with AC anyway. So anyway, always have a backup light. Those are really inexpensive lights, and they're good and they're reliable and they last a good amount of time. So just like when you're growing with HPS, you need backup light bulbs, so you need at least one backup ballast. When you're growing with LEDs, you need at least one backup light. Now LEDs are kind of expensive, so having a backup LED to sit there, that's kind of ridiculous. So instead you just buy a cheap Apollo HPS setup for under $200, and you just have that on the side, all in the box and everything, ready to rock and roll. If anything ever goes wrong, boom, you set that up, go get your LED fixed. That's for any LED company, any electronic, guys. LEDs are far more complicated than HPS. A lot more can go wrong with them, especially when the more parts you put in. That's why I try to put the least amount of parts as possible. The more electronic parts, the more failures that can happen. And so Kind has a pretty high fail rate because of that, because they have so many extra parts with remote control, especially their K5 series, they have remote control. Like, there's always stuff going wrong with that particular part of the light. But they're still, they keep it within range of acceptable fail ratio. Yeah, so anyway, just keep that in mind. With any electronics, guys, you're buying, that just because you buy something and you get a dud doesn't mean the company sucks. Right now I'm recording on the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. Why? Because Samsung's awesome, even though the first two Note 5s I bought were crap. And shit went wrong with them like right away. But yeah, okay. Alright guys, double peace. Keep it real and spread the love. And if you guys have learned something from this video, go ahead and share the crap out of it. I'm sure other people will enjoy it as well. And that's it. Go ahead and thumbs up it and leave your comments. If you have any questions, please leave them here in the video. I appreciate that. I get your questions here in the video. That's me answering. If you email, it's going to be my wife answering. If she doesn't know the answer, then it'll be me telling her what to answer, or maybe
Most times me, they really do.
yeah. And so that's just the way that goes. So if you want to communicate with me, leave a comment in YouTube. That's how you're going to communicate with me personally. All right. Anyway, so this will be coming off soon. It was fun growing though.
I'm used to it now.
All right.
Sorry.
Again, until next time, guys.
Double peace.
Oh, we'll be starting to grow soon. Sorry, I know I keep saying we're going to, but we really are going to be starting to grow soon.
We'll do a video of what seeds.
Yeah, I was actually about doing photo period grow just to kind of do something different again, because I haven't done just a pure photo by itself without any autos at all anywhere in the house or
We
anywhere.
just got all the pollen out.
And so that'd be kind of nice to do that. So
From the last incident.
yeah,
So,
that's the other reason why I wanted to wait a while too. I want to make sure there's absolutely no pollen in my grow area, because
we pretty much didn't even do anything this whole summer.
well, but I mean the last grow didn't have anything wrong with it, and it was a grow before the last grow that
No,
had,
it was the last grow where we had to come down because
yeah, some of the ones were throwing some male flowers. I'm like, oh, that's not good. That means not male
It
flowers,
was too
but
long.
male parts with inside the bud.
I waited too long to cut them down.
And so I'm like, crap, that means that there's pollen in there, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I think we've waited long enough and sterilized and everything, so all the pollen should be dead by now.
Yep.
Inactive, so hopefully. But anyway, so
Fingers crossed.
what do you guys think? Leave it in the comments. Should I do photos or should I do autos? I'm not going to do both, so one or the other. And yeah, so I'm just debating on what I want to do. I kind of want to do photos. I mean, I know I did a photo grow not that long ago, and but I don't know. Photos are fun to do too. I kind of like going back and forth. But what I love about autos though, they're so fast and I can get immediate. I just love that, how fast they're growing. You just see them stack up buds so quick. It's just awesome to watch. Whereas photos, they have that really boring dead, especially from seed. From cones it's not so bad, but from seed it's got that slow. Okay, it's finally ready to go into the flower. Anyway, all right, I'm done talking.
All right, double peace.